so this video is going to give you the tools, it's going to give you the steps, it's going to give you the questions for you to ask yourself to prepare yourself. It's going to give you my opinions on what best course of action to take. And you can take it or you can leave it or you can take parts of it or none of it. To me, as long as you're willing to listen, as long as you're willing to hear me and take it in and ask those questions, do you want to be in it or not? Like that's what the call is. And that is, I think, the deepest part of this energy is when people start going, I want the energy to go back to normal. You want the energy to go back to where you don't have to participate in anything anymore. And you just want to go sit back and watch the whole show. And guess what? The universe is giving you that opportunity here to build up to 2020. But do you really want that in your life? Is that really, but I'm not saying, maybe I'm saying that because I'm somebody who feels that I don't want it, I don't want that. So I can't judge you for being in that space. But I can tell you from an astrological point of view that sure, it might feel more comfortable to be in that space, but there is going to be something of not being fulfilled. Hi, I'm David Palmer, the Leo King celebrity astrologer for HighVibe.tv. This video is about the preparation to 2020. And as an astrologer, I feel that it's the number one duty of an astrologer to bring a forecast, a horoscope. But what is a horoscope? A horoscope truly is a preparation for what is to come, and giving you the tools to understand how to go through the process that I believe is predetermined, that I believe is here. And of course, we like to talk about free will and predetermination or fate. And which side of the fence are we on? There's debates about this all the time. And there's really no debate that both exist. But is there moments in life that predetermination comes the center point to create free will? I think that's what this preparation is of 2020. I believe that if I look at 2020, and this video is going to go much more in depth into the whole understandings of this preparation. But if I really look at it, I feel that this next decade is about really starting to see what free will looks like. I don't believe that we have really been able to see what free will truly looks like. And I've gotten a lot of flack for that in the past, of being too fatalistic. And I'm not somebody who is closed-minded or rigid to where I will just hold a belief down till the end of the core. I always will take in new evidence, and I will always be willing to shift my perception and my mind to new things. And one of those things is free will. But I think that when it comes to free will, there is something about free will that is, I don't like the term free. I think that we have will. I think that we have choice. I think that we have unlimited free will. I would like to reframe that into, the choice of aligning with your destiny. And that's really what this preparation is. And I've used a lot of analogies, and even in this video, you'll hear me use an analogy of like the preparation to get on a rocket ship, like from NASA. But I feel that this preparation is really about whether or not you're truly ready as a human to evolve to the next round of where the human species is evolving. And in order to do that, you have to be prepared for it and to be aware of what events are happening, what energies are coming into your field, the collective field, that truly, really are accessible to you to understand, so you move about this new decade in a way that you do align with the destiny. Because I truly believe that there is energies out there that are trying to take away the ability of choice. I do believe that there are forces out there that do not want people to find their ultimate power. And so this video is about helping you understand what's coming, to not be afraid of what's coming, but to also truly understand what fear is going to be used against you, what things are going to come in your field against you to avoid. And we have a choice to avoid those things. You know, when we go to any, kind of like public event now, whether that's a theme park or you go to any place, there's always these little distracting areas that catch your attention, and they bring you over there and you receive what they give you, and then you're like, why did I just do this? And I wasted my time and energy. There's going to be a lot of these distractions, but on a much more intense scale. And I think that this is going to be a time in which, if you use the leading up to 2020 as a preparation time, as going deep within and knowing and looking at all your connections and looking at all the chords and looking at where you are at vibrationally with your perception, where you are at with the plans, where you are at with the divine itself, that you can come into this cycle and truly make it the most amazing decade of your life. But there is something to say that there is always, when something is just as extremely good, there is something that is just extremely bad. And I've put out there in previous videos that I believe that the first month, right away, as we enter into 2020, and when Saturn and Pluto, which we will talk about and show you in this video, meet in Capricorn on January 12th, that I believe that that is going to be a marker point that will also be a signal that will be shown to us on how to navigate and understand how to go through the whole decade. I know it sounds crazy. I know I might sound like I make no sense, that why right away at the very beginning of a whole new decade will the choices that you make, and more importantly, the understandings of the external world and how it's going to come at everybody, and what choice you make will actually determine the course of your whole rest of your life. Because this is a decade that is not for playing around. But that energy can be directed at us in so many different ways and used as fear, as what you have to do, or really kind of push you into other people's agendas, where I'm here not trying to push you into any other agenda except for you to step into your greatest power and your own unique destiny, whatever that might be. I'm not here to tell you to go down a certain road to do this. I'm not here to tell you to go believe this. I'm not telling you to go really much do anything with your life, except I am here to help guide you and let you know that this is a decade to where, if you follow your destiny, which, to be very blunt and to be very honest, everybody was born with one. And there's a higher purpose to it. There's a beautiful purpose to it. There's a reason for doing something beautiful, to make this, not only this planet, but just this whole entire universe that we live in, a completely changed place to be, a much more beautiful place to be. And a lot of what you're hearing out there in the outside world, and through the lens scope of whether you call that the media or even social media aspects, is really this alternative, more false view of it, and pickpocketing you with certain beliefs to try and have you base your destiny off their agenda, off their destiny, not your own, not the divine's. So this video is going to give you the tools, it's going to give you the steps, it's going to give you the questions for you to ask yourself, to prepare yourself. It's going to give you my opinions on what best course of action to take. And you can take it or you can leave it, or you can take parts of it or none of it. To me, as long as you're willing to listen, as long as you're willing to hear me and take it in and ask those questions, that makes me at least know that I came here and I did my job. And I know that in the build-up to 2020 and these months that are in the build-up to this, I know that that's why I was here on the planet. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the universe doesn't want me here after. I don't know yet. But I do know that I was here for this moment. And that's what this video is about. And I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that you take all the knowledge from it, and I hope that you're willing to listen with wide open ears, wide open minds, wide open souls, wide open emotions, wide open hearts. And take or leave, whatever it is. All I want is your greatest happiness. All I want is your connection to your path, your destiny, that does and was predetermined and preordained by the highest of goods of the highest of God to the greatest path in the world. 2020 is a major year, and the buildup is just as important as the actual decade we're coming into, which are the 2020s. But 2020 itself as a year is extreme in itself. That's because there are so many cycles that are ending and closing in so many different systems of astrology. One, you can just take the simple one, Chinese. Chinese astrology is a 12-year cycle, and we start with the rat, which is in 2020. And when you mix this more into Western astrology, tropical astrology, you start to see some of the most extreme aspects we've ever seen in, I would like to say, human history. The reason why is, one, is as we come into this buildup, we are ending a long 37-year cycle of the exact conjunction points of Saturn and Pluto. So Saturn is meeting with Pluto in Capricorn, but it's leaving its conjunction in Libra from 1982 into 1983, and that was dealing with relationships. And so really a lot of these closing cycles are having to do with this new world, this new system. Even the governments are a huge aspect of this, and I'm going to get to that. But the main part is you feel like you're at a crossroads in your life. And this crossroads is, it feels fatalistic. It feels destined. It feels like why you came here is all showing up here in 2020. And I know that might sound crazy to a lot of people, but this buildup is so important about how you set yourself up. It's a lot like NASA and how it sets a rocket up. You just don't just show up to 2020 and get in the rocket without double checking everything, making sure that your spacesuit works, making sure that you have all the electronics looked at. I mean, that's what I mean about preparation, especially when it becomes relationship-wise. Now, take a look at 1982 and 1983. I mean, this buildup was pretty intense because, one, when you look at the end of the 70s, the divorce rate was at its highest, and that was so radical and different. We had never seen in society for especially this last couple thousand years of divorce from marriage. Like, that was something that, you know, if you were to try and pull that off in the 50s or even the 40s, it was really shunned. And then if you look at the way that relationships started to change as far as, you know, with sexuality, all the way to people really starting to see being a single mother or a single father, or even just say, I'm not going to get married this life. We even saw reality shows with multiple, you know, people having like 7 wives. We saw, polyamory. We saw so many different things here in this cycle of this, you know, from the 1980s, early of them, to now, all the way to dating apps and, there's so many wild aspects of relationships that you have to realize that the relationship to yourself also has been a big shift. And the environment and the world that we live in, the relationship we have with the earth, the relationship we have with each other has gone through major imbalances to check itself of balances. And even the relationships with different forms of government or the relationships with world governments themselves. You know, there's this consensus that deep inside, going into a major destiny crossroads of 2020, there is this about who is going to watch this wild movie with you, who's going to be sitting next to you, who are your tribe, who are the people that you're in alignment with for your destiny. It's a little bit like how a chiropractor will align your back. But you got to realize that relationship-wise, the relationship you have with yourself, but even more important, and even though that's the most important, but I would say it's more important than ever that Libra does deal with this external aspect of defining our roads with who we're with in life. And so relationships are an important part because the eclipse cycle that's also happening in closing. We are closing the north and south node of the moon, which has been in Cancer and Capricorn since the end of basically the fall of 2018. We are going to be closing that and moving into a whole nother cycle in 2020 as well. And that is dealing with Cancer and Capricorn. And this is, of course, where Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are going to be meeting up in Capricorn at the beginning of 2020, which is pretty intense because, one, the last time Saturn and Pluto met in Capricorn, of course, was 1516, 1517 in Capricorn. But when Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto met in Capricorn was all the way back in 1282, 1283, 1284. So we have this long in this millennium, time frame of when we've seen this, and one is 500 years, the other one is almost 800 years long. And both those cycles never did have, like we see now, all three of these big major energies with eclipses, but with the south node here. And so you can think of the south node eclipses a lot like going south. Things are needing to be done. We want to head north in our life, and that north node is in Cancer, which ironically enough, coming into 2020, you can tell where it's at, even though it's an invisible aspect, because the nodes of the moon on the ecliptic help us understand that position of where the eclipses will happen, where you will actually physically see the eclipse of the sun and the moon. And this is happening right by where the North Star is, the star Sirius. And this is the star that all the ancients pointed towards with their pyramids, with their temples. This is a very major moment for people to realize that there is destiny, there is fate. And that's what Capricorn rules, and relationships fit into that. But we've never seen in our lives, this millennium or even the previous one, these alignments with the South Node, and especially the awareness of these outer planets like Pluto. We didn't even find Pluto till 1930. And then we try to discount Pluto here in this last decade as far as being an actual planet. So we've never actually consciously as human beings really experienced major transits with, Saturn and Pluto meeting up with awareness with Jupiter in the same place before. I mean, this is like a whole nother conscious realm. And if you think of the human brain and you think of consciousness and you think of, reaching outside the paradigms of understanding this universe, we are reaching places we've never reached before in our human consciousness. Especially if you take for consideration just with NASA itself and Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. And these probes that were sent in the 70s were specifically sent at a destined moment in time, because the way that the planets revolve around the sun, they had to launch them at an exact time frame in that decade to be able to hit all the planets and use them energetically, vibrationally, gravitationally to reach all the way outside of our solar system and even take snapshots of Pluto, which we got in 2018 with Voyager 2. And what's interesting about it is that was predetermined, that was preset. And so the fact that a lot of people question predetermination in life in general, that it doesn't even exist, when you have to know a certain time in life when to send probes in order to use gravitational and, more importantly, take snapshots of planets to be able to reach then outside the solar system and go into, this heliopause, which is where the heliosphere, we're like in a bubble, like we're in like a fishbowl in the way that we live this life in the solar system. So when we get out of it, we go to this heliopause, which is a space between spaces that scientists don't even know the exact amount of space that is. So we had to send probes to even see what that's like, to know how far does the border of this fishbowl go? I mean, really, if you think about it, like how far does it actually go? And so interstellar space outside of our solar system entering into our galaxy is after this heliopause. And both 2012, Voyager 1 left and went into this heliopause and then started to enter intergalactic space with no time frame of knowing, we'll just wait and see when the data comes in. And then Voyager 2 takes pictures of Pluto and then says, bye-bye solar system, and heads into the heliopause. And so if you think of the word pause, and if you think of the understanding of being in a space between spaces with two probes that are human consciously in life, like these are human created probes sent outside the solar system in a place in between places of our own home. Why do you think you feel that way in yourself? Why do you think that the buildup to 2020 is a pause of in between spaces into a whole entire new reality and paradigm? And it's a lot, because this is a time where who is with you in the seat of that probe or that rocket into this next realm is important, because with Cancer, where the North Node is, it's important to know that comfort, security, and safety come from emotions. And we're at a time where we have to put our lives back into a place of preparation from the buildup until January 12th of 2020, when we're going to see Saturn and Pluto make their conjunction, and we're going to have eclipses from Christmas to January 10th, 2 of them, the solar and the lunar eclipse, that are going to be with these planets. That we need to have some sort of emotional base. And when you combine this with the cycle closing of the Libran cycle of Saturn, Pluto in 82 and 83, you get this emotional need for partnership. You get this need to see who is with you. And some people might just want to have the partnership with their dog or their cat or themselves or a robo sex toy. I mean, who knows? It doesn't matter. But what matters is what feels right to you. I mean, even Tom Hanks when he's in Castaway has Wilson. There's something about life in this. Life is about people. This life is about connection. This life is about we need others, or we actually can feel like we go insane. And I think there's something to say about the way that life is, in that there are moments that are predetermined. There are moments in reality, especially in history, that set the course of the way that the world has shifted, and we are entering that time. And so if you're aware right now, and you're aware to be able to start to put all the dominoes together, I mean, if you even include, Uranus just entered into Taurus here in 18, and then went back into Aries, and then it came back into Taurus here at the beginning of 2019. You have to really consider the fact that the last time Uranus was in Taurus was a very intense time in the global stage, as far as watching, Europe shift, Hitler and the Nazi regime come out, seeing alliances starting to come together that were very different and weird, the rise of the Japanese Empire really start to become pronounced, the buildup of a lot of this, and what Japan was doing with China, what Germany and Italy were doing together, and Mussolini and Hitler, and then even Stalin, and then backstabbing and shifting things over. And that was at the end of that transit. So we're in a world where you have to be flexible in understanding the inflexible. And what I mean by that is that inside of your conscious self, about the way that you understand this world, this is a time where what you are so secure with in seeing the world look like, the more flexible you are about just accepting what is changing, the more bendable you are. And the best way I could describe this, to use it for you, would be this. My last name is Palmer, and that name actually deals with, during the Crusades, that the palm leaf off a palm tree, you can bend it extremely hard under very stressful circumstances, and it will bend back to its original place. And so you have to really think that this world right now, even though it looks like it's just going to come to a moment where it feels like, there is some sort of moment where everything's starting to feel like it's falling apart in the world, that it's bending itself, and it will always bend itself back. It's a little bit like the understanding or the analogy of a pendulum swinging in life, that the pendulum is swung so far one direction when it comes to, are we going to live the world in a way that is just about who's controlling it, the control in yourself about how you control your world? Or are you going to find comfort in your life, and you're going to find security in being emotionally comfortable with parts of predetermination? Whether you call that destiny or fate, that's something that you live through every day. The sun is predetermined to rise in the morning at a certain time at sunrise, and it's predetermined to set at a time that is when the sun sets. And I think that this is something that you live in your life every day, that you have come to know, and that's okay. You don't even think about it. You'll look on your phone even, what time sunrise or what time sunset. But when you start seeing things in your life that you haven't really gotten an accustomation to, or even like learned to understand completely, changing and having to accept that new vision of life. Especially we're going to see it with government, world powers, control, shifting of alliances. We're going to see it in our monetary system with Uranus and Taurus as well, because Uranus has to deal with this amazing way of finding a better route of life, but it is something that comes out and shocks people in a way, right? Like sometimes a flat tire, even though it's shocking and it's scary, might have just saved your life to get you a new tire, because that tire actually was almost going to go bald, and maybe it was bald, and maybe there was steel tread showing, and you were just not dealing with it. And it finally comes in and says, it tries to save you in a way. And even though the catastrophe of the flat tire is horrible, maybe it just saved you from a horrible catastrophe of actually it blowing out and running into another car. You know, this is what Uranus does to the monetary systems of the world right now, and Uranus also rules technology and so forth. So of course, when you think of cryptocurrency and you think of the whole entire marketplace of how money is exchanged digitally now, and what happens with the actual structures that hold the electrical system as well, you know, you start to wonder in yourself, what happens if the electrical grid goes out, or what happens with digital currency? Is there actually physically backed currency like there's always been in life? And right now, you know, we're tending not to see that. Like the gold standard's gone, the backing of a lot of these federal notes, especially if you use America, it's not backed by much more than an actual like American worker and the wages and the taxes that are paid and so forth. So this is a major shift in what is money going to look like over this beginning of this new century or this new decade, and especially just even 2020 here. And companies and how the stock market determine whether or not we're going to make it or not. You know, and especially in today's world of media and so forth, and with these ways that the opinion can shift in people's life like a pendulum from one side or the other in a matter of seconds, can change the way that the whole global economy works, a fear. And so this is going to be a time where people are going to have to really have the right person next to them to balance them out, to talk to them about things, that have a good awareness and have an emotional comfort, because so the things that are going to change can be very scary. But, you know, it's a lot like watching a scary movie and realizing that, you know, it's a lot more scary than it really is. And I think that's important to note as we prepare into this. What I recommend for everybody to do when it comes to preparation for 2020 and this next decade is, one, it's about being secure with why you're here. And I know that that's a very hard question for people, and a lot of people can debate that a lot. Is that, you know, are we here because of God? Are we here because we're just a random anomaly? You have to be comfortable with whatever choice that is within yourself. That when it comes to this idea of destiny or crossroads or predetermination, that you have to be comfortable with what you're doing here, why you're here, what are you going to utilize this crossroad, this major time in life that's coming, and what are you here to do with it? We're in a world where this is going to be a time for you to prepare by looking at the relationships that you surround yourself by. That includes everybody from your friends to your family to your lover to everything, to make sure that you're comfortable, that you're accepted. Because one thing is, stigma is going to be a big part of what the 2020 energy is about. And the reason why I say stigma is because there's so many stigmas around. We see it in our diets now. You know, you can look at somebody now and say the stigma of, oh, they should probably change their diet. Maybe they're too skinny. Maybe they're overweight. The stigma, or even as me as an astrologer, oh, he's just pseudoscience. And even if you look up Wikipedia, it even says that astrology is pseudoscience. When this is an art form and this is an actual tool and this is actual science and alchemical. You know, that was the esoteric, the older way of actually looking at science. This was like the core of it. It's the core of Hippocrates' actual like Hippocratic oath. It's the core of our time system. It's the core of understanding so much of our reality that, you know, this is going to be a time for you to really come in without stigmas, because you don't want to be on the side of the fence that's going to be pointing at everything as the one who is creating the stigma. And I think that another part of this is to learn to not be afraid of projections of fear, when especially it comes out of a place that feels inside like, is that really happening? Because if we look at life, sure, there are catastrophes. There are things that show up in life that are anomalies that make us go, whoa. You know, I always remember the tsunami of 2011 in Fukushima. Or I live in LA, so I've been through the Northridge earthquake and just the most recent earthquakes in 2019. But I can tell you that there's something that feels like, okay, those patterns seem to happen in life. But there's something about the fear that's going to be projected here in the 2020s of, and especially in 2020 of, is this real, or is there some backdoor story to this? Or is this programmed in a certain way? Or is this pre-planned from a human point of view and not so much of kind of a, whether you want to call that the natural law or nature itself or God? And another part of this is going to be beliefs. The beliefs are going to become rampant and over-dramatized and over instilled on people, especially because Jupiter in Capricorn meeting with Saturn, which has not happened for 20 years, but you know, the last time that we had it come into this place of Capricorn and then move into Aquarius was with, you know, JFK becoming the president. So we haven't seen this one for a long time, because in 1960, as we started to see Jupiter and Saturn come together, we saw JFK, we saw this change of the youngest president coming in, we saw this whole new energy, and, you know, I mean, that was 60 years ago. So this Jupiter-Saturn cycle is unique because it will actually meet in the sign of Aquarius, an air sign, which it has not done in over hundreds of years. And air is intellect, and Aquarius is putting things together and starting to see outside of illusions by actually looking at factual data and actually looking at, you know, a way to find connection in life and to find solutions to things. But Capricorn is much more rigid, it's much more already defined, and this is what it's going to be, and this is how it only works. Where there's something about that, this idea of this is the only way it should work is not the only way. And I think that it's important for people to start to know that when we come into this, that the preparation is to not fall into the fears of things that it has to be this way. Anything that starts to show up in a belief system that if you don't do this, if you do not believe in this, if you do not look in this direction, there's something about that there is an illusion to that. There is an illusion to it being this way. And this brings up religions very intensely. And I'm not one here to say a religion's wrong or religion's right, but it's about how people project their belief systems onto others and feeling of this end-all be-all fatalistic knowing that if you don't do this, you'll end up there. Where there's something different about being an astrologer and giving this information out is that I'm giving you the information whether you want to take it or not. There's no judgment from an astrologer. It's just, as an astrologer, we are using data and history, and we are using predetermined planetary positions and understanding lots and lots of historical data of understanding, well, what happens when this happens in history? How many years? What are the other cycles? And one thing that's beautiful about the planets is it literally takes tens of thousands of years for them all to be in the same spot, like at all. Like, so you're never seeing the same scenario. It's a chessboard with a completely different set of pieces in different places, and certain pieces out and certain pieces in. So, you know, this is something where being non-judgmental of people, their beliefs, their ways of life, and watching as the world is shifting to not create stigma, which actually is what is going to create more of censorship. And also for yourself to find the empowerment in yourself to know what feels right to you and to not go into anything that makes you feel that you're going to be somewhat subjected to, you know, a way of life to where you have to be a certain way, you have to live a certain way, you have to, you know, follow this order of life. Because I think that there's going to be the deepest illusionary fear that something is here, something that we have to deal with, that if we don't deal with this, we're done. And I think that when you start to get into that, there's a manic element to it, like a hypomanic belief system that's going to explode onto people. And it's going to be transferred through, a fear aspect. And I think that it's very important for people to be prepared for this fear. I mean, we saw a lot of this fear after 9/11 and how intense it was. And that was with the eclipses in these spots. And this is even way more intense. So I'm not predicting a 9/11, but I'm predicting the energy of this fear of safety and how this is going to be done and all that stuff. And then, it's funny, and when you look in politics today and how, politicians try to say, no, I didn't vote for that war. They want nothing to do with what was taking place. But at that time, if you did not take that course of action, you were looked at as a non-patriot, or that you didn't care about New York City or America or anything like that. So this is really going to be a testy time. The other thing, of course, to prepare for is that people are going to be civilly unrested as far as when it comes to divisive beliefs, but also in, spiritual ideology to science and to what is factual. And there's going to be so many debates. It's almost like a civil war happening within, every corner of our consciousness in our human way. And we have to remember that we're human at this, end of the day. And so that's why the relationships we choose are so important, because one thing that's very scary about Neptune is it's about to head exactly to the position it was in 2020, where it was in 1692 during the witch trials. So it's like we're all being put under witch trials. And I think that the one thing to not be afraid of, but you have to also, as an astrologer, present this to people of what could be there. And I'm not trying to use this as a fear-mongering thing, but I'm trying to help people understand that you don't have to go through this, is slavery, the slavery of your soul. The slavery of your soul to whether that is corporate slave camps and work, to slavery under an ideology or a belief system that you must follow, that we have to keep the wide open array of information from all people. And that's one thing that freedom and liberty represents extremely. It's also very ironic that in 1620 was, of course, which is going to be a 400-year anniversary of the Mayflower. And so there is something about the Mayflower and that 400-year cycle ending and beginning as far as this, wow, this is almost like if you really understand the Mayflower, it was, especially because I'm a direct descendant of Isaac Allerton, who was a Mayflower compact signer, that it was about leaving for religious freedom from King James and the switch that was happening with the religious beliefs in England at the time with the crown. And so, a bunch of people, and they were going back and forth. My ancestor went to Holland, and he was a trader. And the Dutch, of course, learned so much from trading that, if you went to Holland, a lot of people were going to Holland from England, but they also didn't want to be Dutch. They didn't want to raise their kids as Dutch. They wanted to keep them English. So it was like a very weird thing. And that's why the Mayflower was created and taken off and went to a new world. And I think that there was some really interesting things that came out of that, because if you think about what preceded the Mayflower in 1620 was when you get into that 1641 time, you get the Civil War that happened and a king having his head cut off in public. I mean, we're coming to a point to where beliefs and the radical beliefs, whether that's political, whether that's spiritual, whether that's in any aspect that's becoming radical. Of course, I can see why a lot of people try to censor things, but there is something to say that the information that actually could help people stay out of these radical beliefs is actually giving more power to those radical beliefs by censoring the information to have people think another way. And so this is going to be a time where we all have to remain open, not create witch trials on each other, not create witch trials to others, and more importantly, in yourself. Feeling guilty for feeling, who you are, what you want to express, and really helping to inspire to create a new world is not going to be done through forcing people, but it's going to be done through inspiring people. It's going to be, done by having people have an option in their life for where they can go. Because when people feel constricted with these planets, this is the most tight it's going to feel, and the world's going to feel tight, because when a lot of planets get together, in astrology, we call this a stellium, but it really feels like there's not a lot of room. I mean, it's a lot like getting in a car with, like let's say you get in an Uber and it's a Toyota, I don't know, a Honda Accord, and you got 5 people, right? Like, it's just like, there's not a lot of room in the car, and now you want to add another person? You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, it becomes that, and especially with Jupiter and Saturn, the biggest planets, it's going to feel tight. And you want to give some people some air and some room. But what do judgments or stigmas come when you're in a car with a bunch of people? And I'm real. I'm not somebody who holds back. But when you're in a car with people, you start to be like, what do you smell like right now? Or what are you wearing? Or what, you start to, when somebody gets that close into your energy and you start to feel it, and you start to kind of start to make your own judgments and stuff on people. Sometimes they're great ones, sometimes they're bad ones. But this is definitely going to be a time to where judgment is going to be something that we have to release that to a higher order, whatever you call that, to a higher source, to God or whatever. And I think that the judgment of man through men in themselves, and that's just humans, not just the male form of men, but the understanding of humans is going to be our biggest downfall. And our biggest downfall in life is when we ourselves created ourselves. And I think that there's a lot of merit and understanding in data to prove that the earth is changing. But there's also a merit that humans, more importantly, are the ones internally changing at the same time and are creating crises. And the way that you react to a crisis, if somebody falls in a room and faints and something bad happens, the chaotic feeling of what to do and what to do next from people who don't know what they're going to do creates a chaotic feeling. But it's the person who has been trained to do CPR and been trained to help somebody, like a lifeguard or a medic, that always knows to remain calm, that always knows to take it situation by situation and to clearly know what to do. And this is the best way to prep for this time, is to understand how to stop when it feels like it's a chaotic belief or a chaotic mess or a chaotic situation that is really going to be world powers and control systems that are really trying to shift the way that people perceive life, that shift the way that people look at life, and also create the chaotic nature for people to take any belief system, to take any sort of system to put themselves into, and to inject that into their consciousness to form them into almost like herding sheep. That this is going to be a time to prepare by knowing how to stay calm through it all, and that the universe has doorways out. And they are not doorways that you are going to be forced or required, because we all as humans and we all as community and we all as a country or we all as a world, all of us are going to have to be the ones that say, we want our options. We want space. We don't want any fatalistic, which is actually a false fatalistic aspect. The only understanding really here of fate is that this stuff is going to go down. What we do with our choices here are going to be major. And this is going to be a time where your best preparation is being in a place with emotional comfort and love, and more importantly, with the right partnerships and the right people. Because with Neptune as well in Pisces, there's this escapism element. And we saw that on the buildup to the Civil War. I mean, you used to have apple cider beer in barrels in front of your house for breakfast. And alcohol was served breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There was even a break for beer, apple cider, And this is before the Germans came over to America in the late 1800s and brought over, German beer and created what we know today as bars, which were based upon going to this pub, which is actually more like this brewery for that beer. That's how it started. But it was not that way in the 1850s with Neptune and Pisces. And we saw the buildup to the Civil War then, and this is exactly where Neptune is, through half of this whole 2020 cycle here, all the way until 2025. I mean, we're going to see this buildup. And so to prepare yourself is to stop, escaping, but to be here. Because the people who are going to be escaped, and this looks at your friends, this looks at the partners you're with, because if you're going to just form an escapism tactic, well, when it shows up and you're not here to help or do the work or be aware of what's going on and it gets chaotic, you get kind of thrown into a truck, and next thing you know, you have, I don't know, maybe a gun in your hand, or maybe you have something in your hand that you don't want, or you're put into a place that you don't even want to be because you were not paying attention and you were lost, and you also kind of fell into this. And this is going to be a time of real understanding deep in yourself, where you have to use up until January of 2020 to do some really deep work on your beliefs, being open, taking away stigmas, and also learning your escape mechanisms are not positive when they are trying to just leave this place more, to feel better, because there's something that it doesn't fulfill fully. Now, of course, we all have our need for escapes at moments, and we need laughter and joy and all these things, but this is about the healthiest kind that we can. As the planet Saturn and Neptune are in their home signs, they're making their last great aspect in their home signs. And so this is another part of why destiny is extremely at a fated position, because we've never seen this in our lives. And to see Saturn and Neptune in the same sign in a sextile, which is a 60-degree angle, you only get the hall pass to the life that you really want when you're not in an escapism place, or you're not in a place where you're unconscious, or you're blind, or you're just not really. And it's a hard time because we have to put in the work, you know. We want to escape. We want to just go, you know, vacation or wherever that you think is your escape. But this is a time to where, you know, the universe is asking for you to really be in and do your work. And there's not a lot of breaks. I will say this to kind of finish this preparation question, is that rewards are what come from hard work. And that's what's very difficult about Capricorn, is it just, you get to the middle of it all and you go, why am I doing this? You know, it's a lot like being in school. Like, why am I doing this? My degree is this many years away. Or you climb a mountain and you're like, you look up and you go, I've been doing this for weeks. I'm tired. I'm out of food, and I still have over halfway to go. It's that moment when you just want to escape, you want to leave, you want to back out. And so this is a big question for people in the spiritual community, and just all people in general. If they're really wanting to not be here on this planet, and sending a signal out that you don't want to be here on this planet is going to send a signal to the planet that it doesn't want you here. And I think that that is the biggest thing that you're going to have to alter in yourself. And everybody on this planet has that feeling deep down inside. People are even wondering whether or not they should have children. Should I bring children into this world? I hear that one all the time, and that one's like, well, why do you think that planet, or, so I'm going to just bring up a very triggering subject. Why do you think extinctions are happening of animals? Why do you think the earth feels like it's deteriorating? Well, we are sending a signal out like, why should we do this? Why should we be here anymore? We're tired. The structure, this is why the structures are changing in the world. And you know, you're going to have to erase your own political ideologies in this, because you can become so attached to one political ideology that you won't look at another. And this is where my best advice for people is to really understand Hermetic alchemy. The understanding of looking at the duality of nature, the duality of life, the light, the dark, the neutral position of the mind, and understanding how to use the mind as just a neutral observational place of data, but to come back into the heart space, to come back into the spiritual space, to come back into the truth. But the only way that you can look at the truth is accepting the truth, instead of it being this one-sided pendulum or this one-sided way. And there is no one side on this point. There is multiple aspects that come together in a beautiful way, and we have to find, all of us in ourselves, how to find that beautiful aspect, how to find all those beautiful things to come together. And more importantly, once we do, we can all start to see things from all sides and find a way to get through this. But we're not going to get through this with chaos. We're not going to get through this with you being with people, I being with anybody in my life, or any of us that are just coming here to escape. We don't want to be here. We're not ready to put the work in. We're just gonna go just say, screw it. I'm over this place. I'm out of this world. Because that signal to the earth is going to literally do that. That signal to the universe might even bring something towards us. You know, there's even scientific data that shows, you know, when we think about the Mayans and the Aztecs, or we think about the Egyptians, like, where did they go? It's not like we see just like millions of burial, you know, grounds for these people. There's something to say about these ancient traditions and these ancient peoples that just disappeared. They left a lot of information, which in our society today, we're not using. Of course, there are lots of people that use it, but it's not being on the front page of the newspaper. It's not on the front page of a magazine. It's not on television on a morning show anymore, or ever was, really, in our generation. And so this is going to be the biggest preparation is, have you done your own research? Because when it comes to the fear-mongering that will come out, have you done your research on it? Where is the information coming from? Is there a way to actually get the information? And if you're unable to get the information and you're just going to trust and put it in this sense of an Oz-like effect without looking behind and seeing who's controlling Oz, this is where you're going to have to really be careful about the choices you make in 2020, because it's about making sure that you are not part of a cycle, a place that will take you to a place that you really don't want to go and create an earth that you don't want to be part of. I get the question a lot of whether or not this energy is going to change for the better as an astrologer. I want to remind people that the 2012 Mayan calendar shift was a long count calendar. If you understand a long count calendar, there are multiple sections to the calendar. I mean, we're used to, especially if you're in Western culture, looking at the Gregorian calendar of the 12 months and, the calendar that you buy at a store, and it just counts the years, okay? But that's it. It's pretty simple. It's not like it's tabled, except for millenniums. That's as far as you pretty much get, right? And especially it's after death of Christ and before Christ with BC. There's not a lot of tables. But when you get into the Mayan calendar system, you get the long count, which is the longest count of it all. There's a galactic calendar system, which as far as okay, how long does it take for the sun to come around the whole entire galaxy? This over 200 million year cycle. Then there's that cycle of the sun and how it goes through. If you understand the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, which we learned all in 3rd grade, so you might need to go relearn that again, but that's just the understanding of the sun's path on the ecliptic when it reaches its equinox points and its solstice points. And when it reaches in the northern hemisphere a solstice point, it's going to be that you've reached the Tropic of Cancer, which is June 20th or 21st. And then when you get down to the Tropic of Capricorn, it will be in the northern hemisphere, the shortest day of the year, and it will be also the end of the cycle and a new cycle beginning, of course, of the sun starting to raise back up to the top, and that's on December 21st. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's flipped, of course, but still Tropic of Capricorn, because down in the Tropic of Capricorn, when the sun's down there, you see this wave, you see this sound wave, you see this, if you were to flip it, a figure 8. We see that in infinity a lot. So when you take the cycles and you understand that the sun is also going through a 24,000 year cycle of up and down through its own equinox points and its own solstice points, in understanding the galactic plane, which is like the equator of the galaxy, that the sun goes through its own up and down. Even though the sun on Earth, we don't see the sun do that. We experience the sun going up and down on our horizon line, even though it's our view of things. It's not like the sun's bouncing up and down for us. But to the galaxy, the sun actually is. So when you go to the Mayan calendar system, we went and ended the longest long count calendar system, which meant a complete resetting. And when you get a complete resetting, it feels weird. You could even mix with all the things happening at CERN. There's a lot of connection to, when you bash a lot of these particles together, does that actually affect our time space? Whether you look at string theory, whether you look at multi-dimensions. The show OA that was on Netflix was a great show of understanding how, is there different dimensions that we can go into that are, multidimensional? I used to watch this show Sliders when I was a kid with Jerry O'Connell. I love that show. Slide into different dimensions of reality. Is this something that we are opening up to? Is this something that the Mayans talked about with a new world? Is this why that it feels so weird since then, and will it change? I mean, I don't think that anybody has the answer to that, but I can give you the answer that from an astrologer's point of view, when you can't go backwards in a calendar. We can go backwards for history to observe, and we can almost feel. When you go to an old historical site, there's something where you can almost feel and go back there, but it's a moment that you can feel. It's a feeling, it's a sense, and that's why we love going to historical places. And why do you think anything that's historical or anything that's old that's still been, very powerful from history is kept and protected? Because we all want to feel that going back. We're lucky that we have the social media and the internet, and I recommend printing your pictures out from those times, pre-2012, to remember that that was a different cycle of life. That was a 24,000-year cycle that you ended. But I would like to also say that quite possibly that was also a 220 million year one too. So when you really start to move into this new understanding of that, this is a new energy to adjust to. It's a lot like moving from the mountains and having to go to, let's say, the desert. Like you miss the snow, you miss the mountaintops, you miss the pine trees, but there's something to say about getting used to cactus and getting used to more dirt and getting used to the heat and getting used to the different nature elements as far as the animals and being able to survive in a different way through this world. And so the energy is changed already. It's about being accepting of it. And then a lot of this is how to accept change in history from the past. It's easy because we weren't there. It's easy to look at the past and it's easy to look at history, especially in times when we weren't alive, and go, yeah, I mean, they went through that. That looks like it was horrible. But, the world changed and it went for the better and then it moved on. But to be at the front seats of the movie theater or the front seats of the baseball game, and this one is a big one with the most stuff going on and the most cycles shifting, guess what? The energy is about how you adapt to it and how you accept it. And there's a lot of wanting to always go backwards right now instead of going forward. That the beauty is forward now, that this gives us the life and the well of a brand new reality that we can all create, a brand new world where we can relieve suffering. And there is so much fear-mongering on both sides of everything right now that we're going to have to find a way to stop castrating the world itself and truly come into a place of looking at things from both sides and finding the best solutions. And I feel that the energy that within yourself is going to be tested a lot, because it's going to be a time to where you're going to have to start to do research on your own. You're going to have to deprogram what we have been taught and reprogram yourself. And you can include the things you were taught. You can include new things that you learn. But the information era is important for you to soak up. Going to old libraries is important. Actually doing research for yourself. I mean, we are moving into an age and into a time in the 2020s where we are going to see the battles and the debates, whether, artificial intelligence and how that's going to look. I mean, self-driving cars, and what will it feel like to not have the control of driving your own car anymore? What would it feel like to lose the control of which job you can choose? What would it be like to lose the control of who you can pick as a mate, whether that's genetic or because they're going to genetically test you and that you don't make a good match that way. There's going to be a lot of things that, you're going to set up the downfall or the rise of this world. And you are the conduit of that. And that's what to prepare for. That's what to prepare for in not buying into fear. Because if you buy into the fear, you're going to realize that the choices you're starting to make without doing the full research, without actually being there, and this is going to bring up like a lot of untrustworthy energy around people. Like who to trust, what to trust. I mean, Orwellian, George Orwell, the Orwellian 1984 understanding is happening. And this is going to be a time for us to really realize that this new energy is something we've never been into. Are we really going to create our own prison of our reality? Or is this the precursor to imprisoning humanity and through fear? And creating and becoming our own police guards of ourselves in a really weird way, and also shifting our governments into a way that forget about freedom. And that's something that's not coming from a political place, it's coming from an understanding of, and as an astrologer, of looking at the future, that the Aquarian energy that is coming in 2020, and that is coming in through the whole 2020s, as Pluto in 2023, and then comes back in 2024, will move at the exact position to where not the Constitution, but the Declaration of Independence was signed, as that's where Pluto was at that last degree of Capricorn, coming into Aquarius and coming back. Like, there is a revolution happening on the planet. But, revolutions can fail too. And I think they can fail when they have fear. And one thing that George Washington did not have was the fear to command an army. Or John Adams, I think, even, in my opinion, had one of the most hardest jobs in the Revolutionary War, because he went over to King George on a boat as a rebel, a Continental Congress, a Continental Army, I guess you could call him, at the time he was a diplomat for this new America that was trying to be built, and actually had to negotiate with King George and had to actually tell him, as technically he is a traitor to the English colonies at the time, that America needs to be taken seriously as its own independent country, and actually goes there and actually is treated that way. It takes some nerve, and it also takes confidence in what you're doing and knowing what you're doing. There's going to be a lot of energy that feels like, in this new energy, like you were called up out of nowhere. I always like to think about George Washington like sitting on his farm with his wooden teeth and being called up for service. And even after the war was done, I mean, I don't think, as people unfortunately don't do their history, it's not like, the second the war was done, it was like George Washington is the president and they have a constitution drafted and it's done. I mean, this takes years. And even Washington, D.C. is not even built yet, after the war, until years later. And there was also a debate on where to put Washington, D.C. Like, was it going to go farther south? Or was it going to stay where it is today? This is a time to where people get called up out of nowhere. But they also know, and if you look at your life, every part of your life that you've gone through is a record that we are on. It's a track that you've played to play this new song that is reaching the highest crescendos, the highest highs, the highest bass, the highest, treble, the highest, of all these energies, the vocals and everything. There is this peak out that is coming here in the 2020s. And I think that, to answer some people who might want to go a little farther, then the energy does reach a beautiful place as we enter the second part of this new decade. So I just want to tell people that it is important for you to know that if you look at life like a record, that there is a needle, and no matter how much you want to scratch it back, you've got to move forward. And you got to know that every song that is played, no matter how traumatic it was, no matter how amazing it was, no matter how whatever it was, that there is a new track loading. And there's that moment right now, as we are building up to 2020, of the tracks changing, and you hear the needle on that in-between space where it's between tracks, or it's at the end of that last track and it's fading out, and you hear that noise of the record player. And then the new track kicks in. And this new track's the track we've been all destined to hear. And I think that it's important for everybody on this planet, or that hears this message, that this is going to be the time in your life where you must not waver from knowing your sovereign, independent power of a soul that connects with a global and a more important, a collective, and is not going to diminish yourself. The only way for this world to come together are individuals empowered through themselves that meet up with other individuals that are powered. And it might take a lot of unique individuals that are empowered to help out others that don't feel it, but this is a calling time for those that have that, and that's what to prepare for. If you're really ready to throw away your, illusions of what you think is escapism, like I want to be able to have a normal life, or I want to be able to just chill out, or sure, there's that stuff, But this is the decade that is not going to feel like that at the beginning. It is not. It is not going to have breaks. It is not, sure, in between battles during the Revolutionary War, in between, the Renaissance period times of the 1500s, or, even in the 1280s, right before the Templars, knights got, assassinated and killed on Friday the 13th, 1307. There becomes this time in life that's just going to be building about groups and organizations and people and those that are against and those that are for humanity. What side are you going to be on? And by not being on a side, 81% of the people during the American Revolutionary War did nothing. 19% participated. But those 19% and those very few of that 19% did draft a constitution later on, but they did draft a Declaration of Independence. They did draft, the way a country then was defined. And they were at that table and they were setting the course for human history. And this is going to be a time on whether or not you want to be in the background and watch a crazy radical show, or do you want to be part of the history? Do you want to be in it or not? That's what the call is. And that is, I think, the deepest part of this energy is when people start going, I want the energy to go back to normal. You want the energy to go back to where you don't have to participate in anything anymore. And you just want to go sit back and watch the whole show. And guess what? The universe is giving you that opportunity here as the build up to 2020. But do you really want that in your life? Is that really, but I'm not saying, maybe I'm saying that because I'm somebody who feels that I don't want it, I don't want that. So I can't judge you for being in that space. But I can tell you from an astrological point of view that sure, it might feel more comfortable to be in that space, but there is going to be something of not being fulfilled. And if you understand hierarchy systems, which go throughout human history and animal kingdom history, there are hierarchies, and this is something about no matter what we try to do as human beings to destroy a hierarchy system, humans always find themselves back into hierarchies all the time. And that's the most difficult part, I think, for people to take as the truth. Because you get more power at a higher part in the hierarchy. And that hierarchy system can go anywhere that you want to, that's what Capricorn represents, is the hierarchy. So as there's going to be the rise of hierarchies and the fall of hierarchies, let's try and build a universal hierarchy of beauty. But again, any hierarchy has those who are going to be at the top, those that are going to find that, because they're the ones making the choices. And I think that we are coming into a place in life to where by sitting back, whatever you were given out or given, you're going to have to accept. But because you weren't making those choices, or you're not going to want to climb into those places and you want to be comfortable and chill out, which is fine. You also can't get mad at what is delivered to you in this reality in life because you didn't want to be part of it. There's a lot to prepare for. I hope you're ready. This is where we're going to go into the charts and actually give you a technical aspect of what's happening for the preparation of 2020. In these charts, of course, we're going to be looking at major events that are going to be happening. I'll be honest, I can't even believe there's this much happening just into the preparation of 2020. In October, November especially, and into December, and then even this first couple weeks of January, we're going to look at the new and the full moons. We're going to look at the eclipses. We're going to look at planets that are shifting signs, the Mercury Retrograde, Neptune coming out of retrograde, Chiron coming out of retrograde. And so there's a lot here to look at. But just know that every time we're looking at the charts, I'm going to be taking the approach of not only a horoscope that's really about what's happening, but also for what you can do to prepare to help yourself come into 2020. And actually, when we do look at the charts coming into 2020 itself, you'll finally start to crystallize and understand why I'm preparing you so much. So let's take a look at the first chart here, which is for this new moon that's going to be on October the 27th of 2019. And this is going to be the new moon in Scorpio. And the reason why I'm picking this as really the big energy and the big date is because this opposition to this new moon from Uranus. And you have to remember that when we had a new moon in Libra, the month prior to that, it was a new moon in a weird aspect to Uranus. And then we had the new moon in Virgo, which was in trine to Uranus. So we've been having these multiple months of Uranian energy, and Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus is dealing with the best, the highest quality, and more importantly, finding your skills to make sure that you're connected to moving forward in a better place in your life. But this new moon in Scorpio is intense because of the fact that Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, and there's transformation, there's extremities, and the moon is at its worst position in Scorpio, it's at its fall position. And so we have this making sure that we're not going to fall emotionally into things or traps, especially as Mercury, if you can see on this new moon here, is going to be right before the retrograde on Halloween. And we have also Venus at its detriment. So we have to really use this new moon to look for a higher understanding of where we're going. And so from the month starting of October 27th in that 30-day cycle, there's going to be a lot of shifting that's going on. And especially because a month exactly after this date, we will see Neptune come direct. Now, having a new moon in Scorpio with an opposition to Uranus is going to disrupt the world in general. It's going to bring about a lot of rapid change. Now, this is positive and good. One thing about Uranus is you can never actually know what it will really do. Whether it's going to be negative, is it going to be positive? Like, Uranus is the higher realm and the understanding of how to get to the higher realm, and it will look bad sometimes and it will look great. So there's a lot about connection. There's a lot about redirection at the same time. And so don't be surprised if your life is going to go through some of the most high energy that you've ever felt of connecting to things that feel like, you know, this is what you're supposed to have, or that's supposed to come together in fate and destiny. And at the same time, things that will be lost that were not meant to be. And this is going to bring up relationship stuff intensely, since if we take a look at the chart again here, we're going to have this Mercury and Venus in conjunction as Mercury is going to come direct. And you have to retrograde, and you have to realize that there's a lot here about relationships and stimulation about them and conversation, and the environment of relationships is going to be a big deal. But I don't know if you all noticed, and I'll change the color here so we can kind of see, is that we do move to a place where we do see Mars here at 15 degrees of Libra, making an exact square to Saturn. So here's this Uranian wanting to free itself into any place. It's almost like King Kong wanting to break through the cages. But here comes Mars square Saturn. No matter how hard we try and push for things, there's a lot of restriction. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of making sure that you're making the right choices in your life and making sure that these are right connections for your long-term journey, as this is where Saturn and Pluto are starting to come really close. And you're going to see these two over these charts as they move into, on January 12th is when they're going to come together. We are also at the very end of Jupiter in its shadow period during this new moon, as Jupiter went retrograde in April at 24 degrees. So we're almost out of the shadow. We're going to see Jupiter come into its more expansive qualities, but we're not quite there yet. So this is going to be the beginning of a turning point, but there's also going to be a lot of frustration to want to break into new energy. And it's about being very smart about understanding what's going on with Saturn there and with Mars, because we don't want to push too hard. There's something about the universe allowing itself to unlock the padlocks off the doors that need to be opened and the changes that are going to happen, and also, you know, letting the universe kind of disrupt the things for us that are not working for us any longer. And so that's going to be, I think, what's hard about just coming into this preparation, is knowing that no matter how hard you want to try and push for some things in your life, they might not be the best for you, or they might not be for your journey. And there's a lot about relationships and who those are. And those goes into all sorts of things. But it really is about you trying to not be reactive. And if energies are being reactive towards you, you know, it's almost like there's a sense of, you know, that this isn't in alignment. You know, it's like making sure that you know this is going to be a stressful time, to understand that everybody's working through major issues and self-worth and wanting more, and going through a world that's changing too. And there's going to be a lot of shock and awes that are going to happen on the planet. So this is about aligning with people that can go through the shock and awe with you, that want to stay in sustainability of Scorpio, of commitment and trust. And I think that's super important, especially because wait till I show you all what's coming on Halloween, which of course is going to be the big one of Mercury retrograde. So as we take a look at the chart here, Mercury is going to retrograde here right with Venus at 27 degrees of Scorpio. And this will be at the exact same time that the moon will be on Jupiter, as we are only 1 degree away from Jupiter coming out of its shadow period of really starting to see this abundance and doors open. We are going to see Mars off that square to Saturn, which is positive. But here comes Mars and Pluto in square, which brings an intensity to things. So this Mercury retrograde, although making great aspects throughout the chart, which will make great aspects to the North Node in its retrograde, it'll connect with the Sun, it'll make great aspects to Neptune, it'll make great aspects to Saturn and Pluto. It's not a Mercury retrograde to be afraid of, but more of a let's get to the truth. Let's get to who's connected in our lives and who is not. Let's get to what is our deepest desires and passions, and what can we go explore with this with. And so I think that this Mercury retrograde is not too scary, but it is reviewing this, where are you overcommitted to things that are not bringing you back anything. One thing about Scorpio is it's black and white, okay? And so, you know, if you're connected to a person or a situation or a job and there's zero coming out of it, then it's like, yeah, it's black. But if it's white and there's connections happening to it, especially remember that we had that Uranian aspect in opposition just days earlier to the new moon. You know, it's about what is bringing you connection. It'll feel like either A, people are all in, or B, there's nothing there. It's like desolate ground. And I think that it's important to note that coming into all this, especially, is that it's okay if some things are not working out. It's okay if energy is not showing up, then that means it's not for you, and that means it's not part of this destiny. And I think the biggest thing to chew on, and it might be very difficult to chew on this, is that there are going to be energies that are not going to connect. They're just not going to. They're not going to be there. And if your attachment to something that you want so bad is not there, that's what this Mercury retrograde for the 3 weeks is going to help you do. And it's ironic that literally it's on Halloween day. And so there's a little bit of a spook to, I have to rethink about all these things that in my life, about my passions and my desires, but also about what you want in your life. What do you want to have? What do you want to receive? But this can bring some really extreme positive things, like, wow, this is what I've wanted and it's showing up. I just maybe wasn't looking there. Or this starts to bring up, a lot of things that you've been going through since 2012 when Saturn went into Scorpio and we built this major scorpionic aspect that was basically, this whole decade was about Scorpio. And so this Mercury retrograde is going to be understanding the whole decade of the deep inner fears you've been through, the losses you've been through, in order to understand what is trying to come into your life, which is destiny, which is the destiny. And it feels hard because going on a destiny without things, or with things that you've lost, is almost kind of like going on a vacation without somebody you want to go on a vacation with. And I think that that's, the more you take that approach of like, that's going to be okay, and what's coming in is going to be what is meant for me, is going to help you through a lot of this stuff. And this retrograde, of course, is a long one. It's 3 weeks, of course, like anyone, but it's like, it's going to be happening when the time clock is shifting so much. So the next chart that I want to show you all here is on November 4th. Because on November 4th, as Mercury's retrograde, the real big thing here is going to be this Mars square Pluto, okay? So Pluto is here at 20 degrees of Capricorn, and here comes Mars. Now, Mars and Pluto are two in the same, as far as Mars used to be the one that represented what Pluto is, but they both are ruled by Scorpio. The Sun is in Scorpio, so this is going to be an intense time for change. Like, this is also people trying to force connection, but Mars is in Libra, so it needs to be a balance. It needs to be fair. If it's not fair and not on the same path, like, this is going to be a lot of cutting, a lot of things that aren't working. And especially during a Mercury retrograde, you don't want to try and force yourselves into situations that actually are not going to stick. It also is going to be the moon squaring the sun in Aquarius to the sun in Scorpio. So this is going to be rather intense and very deeply, extremely connected of what is there and what is not. And that's why I said, like, maybe you should listen to Michael Jackson's Black or White. Like, you know, it doesn't matter if you're black, because there's so much of this black and white stuff, especially as Venus, after that Mercury retrograde, has moved into Sag. There's a lot to look at now. And look at Jupiter, 24 degrees, starting to come into its full power, coming out of its shadow. So this is a very exciting point. Also, I want to note that the South Node and the North Node are at 10, so they are about to enter into the first decan of Cancer. Remember that the nodes go actually counterclockwise, or they actually go clockwise, and all the planets go counterclockwise. So we're actually going backwards from what we traditionally look at as in astrology, and so we are about to enter into the first decan at that same time when we start to see this Mars square Pluto. So November 4th is going to feel like a whole entire, holy shift of life. And also Juno comes into Libra, of building relationships that are more pure. It's been in Virgo, which I would say Juno in Virgo is much feeling more servient in your relationship roles, and this is moving it more into a fair place. But if it's not fair and it's not expanding, this is definitely where you do not want to go into these grounds, and to prepare yourself, because relationships are, I would say, the biggest part of what this preparation of 2020 is about. And I've had some comments of people telling me, like, well, what if you're not meant to be in a relationship, or you don't want to be one? Like I said, relationships could be with yourself, with God, with so many different things. But I will say that there is something about humans and people being part of this life. I will say, though, at the same token, that yeah, some people maybe are not supposed to be with people, but there is friendships, there are business deals, there are family members, there are your animals, there's a relationship with something. I don't believe that there's anybody out there with no relationship at all. Even if you're out there in the middle of the woods, there's a relationship with the tent you're in, or your house, or the logs, or nature. But it's about your new way of how you relate to things and whether they stick or not, and learning to not stick to things that aren't sticking back. And that's part of the preparation. And that's part of teaching you that, there's not going to be time to waste in the 2020s when it comes to fucking around with anybody or anything that just isn't fully there. Now, it's hard because I feel that we're all kind of not fully there. But when energy is destined, and this is where I've been really trying to get on the fact about predetermination and fate. And when fate is there, there's something about fate that connects people and connects situations. And it's almost like the belief in faith is a big thing. Or fate itself, too. And it's weird to say belief in faith. Well, the belief in the faith of fate. That's a big one. Now, as we move through November here on the 12th, we're going to start to see, the North and the South Node are now at 9, so they're at the first decan, which the first decan is always a pretty intense aspect. We start to feel the nodes really intensely of this trying to fulfill our emotional life, and we're also starting to feel what is of lack. But I would say that the big news is Saturn has now passed the sextile of Neptune, which is unfortunate because this is the last time Saturn and Neptune will meet in their home signs. So this means by this point, and even though Mercury is in retrograde, which is kind of funky for me to just say this after the sun has made its Cassini point where Mercury has crossed over the sun, but I would like to say that we are at a time to where what is on the mission, what is spiritually on the mission is very clear. Jupiter is now fully opening the doors, and this is about experiencing, with Venus starting to square Neptune, this new exciting journey. But this is a full moon we're looking at in Taurus, its exalted position. So to me, this doesn't surprise me when I look at the full moon chart with Mercury crossing it, and maybe people questioning whether or not this is the right emotional place, or if they should do this or not. This is also with Saturn done with its sextile to Neptune. We will never see this in our lives again in their home signs of Saturn and Capricorn, Neptune and Pisces. So it's almost like the fate is still going on, but there's something to say that the energies from that new moon in October of the 27th to the build up to November 12th brought in a lot of things for you to figure out what is sticking and what is not in your relationship life and your values and so forth. We also, at that same token, have Mars here at 25 degrees, which is not really aspecting anything, like at all. So Mars is kind of alone. And so contemplating things of identity and who you identify through is a little bit confusing. And the only thing that you can use is your emotional understanding of value and your soul and mind's determination of true intimate connection. And so this is a very connective element. And with Jupiter now at 25, there is this sextile to Mars. I guess it's the only thing going on, even though it's a big one. This is about opening up massive new doorways, but it must be connected. It must be there because the time has passed with Saturn and Neptune. This is Taurus Scorpio, about having abundance and having things that are fulfilled. And Mars is trying to open up major doors with Jupiter. And Venus square Neptune can be sometimes, am I delusional about this? Am I not? The only delusion is if you're trying to make something stick that hasn't stuck, and that you think that you can use Mars and Jupiter and believe that something will happen, even though no fate, no evidence, no physical aspects, no actual emotional aspects have shown up. So that is the big thing, is on this full moon of November 12th, do not believe in things that are not there. And that even could be something in the world trying to spook us. I always have looked at, I'm going to come up the chart for a second to tell you all this. Full moons in Taurus are a moment for us to get out of the underworld and see the grass again. And so sometimes, when you get into a project, you can get really deep into something, or when you're working on something, or even gardening, right? You can kind of be in the soil and everything, or even deep into the roots of something, or, but there's something about having to take a step back and see, did I put all this in the garden right? Does it look right? Like the full moon in Taurus is always a positive moment. And so this is a positive one, but we also want to see like what's actually happening, what's actually physically manifesting. And if it's something that, you want to have physically happen, but it's not showing up at all, like I would not put any of your energy or your beliefs towards this way, because this is where Venus square Neptune can create a dream or a vision that's really not possible. And it can also kind of be a carrot that, with a stick, and you're chasing the carrot instead of like looking at the stick and being like, hold on here, I'm done chasing this because it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to keep taking me on the wrong directions. So this is a full moon to prepare yourself for, where even in the world there could be scary things, but really it's like, why would you believe it? Is it actually real? Like, is it actually there? There's going to be some evidence that's going to be needed with Mercury in its weird retrograde, and also it's going to be trining over to Neptune. So if we look at the chart real quick, we'll have that Mercury at 17, and we can change the color here for a second. So 17, and we got Mercury retrograde, while Neptune's retrograde at 1559. So this is the last degree of where Neptune's going, is 15 degrees, and it'll be 59 minutes, and then we'll come direct November 27th. So, there is this needing of evidence, and also needing to see very clear and factually the depth, the truth, the connection that is divine, and if we believe in that, we'll be good. I think that this is a very good chart. But I also think that very good charts can be used very badly if you're attaching to things that you're almost overhyping something that's actually not really there or on part of your destiny. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to get stuck into something like that at all. So, as we move on to the November 14th chart, which is only 2 days after. And that's when I wanted to show this Venus here at 15 degrees. And it does square over to Neptune. So yeah, after that, make sure you know what you're doing here when it comes to relationships and projects and things that you want, that you have a big belief for. Jupiter's in Sag, so it's like, woohoo. But also we have the Sun sextile Pluto, so there's a lot going on. There's desires and wants very extremely to have. There's dreams, and I'm not saying don't go for your dreams, but go for dreams that actually there's a connection there, a trusting, a knowing, And if you have that, then you're good. And Mars and Jupiter are still in sextile. So there's going to be a lot of like last doors. This is like the last thing. And I was talking about this when it was the full moon in Aries. That was October of the 13th that I said that there is a couple more little doorways that are big. And this is one of them, which is from the 12th to the 14th of November. The moon will also be in exact opposition to the moon, to Venus, and will meet an exact T-square. So we want to emotionally have facts, have a good vision, see if spirit's in aligned, believe in this, see the beauty in it, and with the Sun and Pluto, you have all the evidence that is factual of a path forward. By this point, you should know, but if by this point, this is where boats are going to start to take off. If I use this as a drawing, like boats are going to start going. We'll just like, I guess, look at it like, well, hold on. I could draw a better boat than that. So, okay, so the boats are going to be going, because Capricorn, you know, is the boat. But one thing about Capricorn is when you look at Saturn, it's like an anchor, you know. Saturn is like this, but it looks like a boat, but it also could look like an anchor. Now, as the boats start going in our lives, there's going to be people who are clear and actually see the people and the situations that make sense logically, and then there's going to be those that kind of have the illusion. And so, especially with radical beliefs, like into things that still haven't happened yet. And this is where a crossroads is going to happen between the boats. You know, the illusional people go here, the people with things. And so you want to be on the clear boat, because the illusion is going to kind of drift off, where the clear boat is going to be pretty straightforward in knowing where it's going, even though there is some sort of surprise and excitement to it all, because you have to remember we're still in, at this time, the lunation cycle of a Uranian opposition to a new moon in Scorpio. So the Scorpio, you know, transit itself, or Scorpio season, is very potent. It is very potent for making change, but it's also about making sure that it's committed to things that actually physically, emotionally are showing themselves. And even though, you know, trust is a big thing, and how do you determine what is clear and what is an illusion is probably what everybody's asking right now. And that is that there's actual some factual data, there's conversations, and there's actually a will. So there's where I get into the whole like difference between free will and all that stuff and destiny. There's a will from another party, there's a will from another side to put in. And you're gonna have to trust. At least that's more evidence than somebody who's not telling you they're gonna put the will in, or they're ghosting you, or they're not showing up, or the job's not calling you back, or whatever, and you're gonna put all your faith just in that, all your eggs. This is about not putting all your eggs in one basket when not one egg has shown up. I think that's a really good way to put it. So we move to November the 19th. More of the Scorpio season stuff. So let's take a look at this. So here we are. Mars comes into Scorpio. So no more Mars in Libra, thank God, because Mars is not at its peak there. It's definitely at a weaker position, but Mars in Scorpio is very strong. And we have a Mercury finishing its retrograde here at 11 degrees. Because it's a 3-week cycle, it went retrograde on October 31st. So here we are, 19, 20 days in. It's only about a day and a half before it comes direct at 11. But here comes Mars. Mars ready to go, right? All amped up in its home sign, but it's getting ready to oppose Uranus. So this is gonna add even more triggers than you even realize when it comes to even more radical changes in your direction, your identity, your passions. The moon in Leo is gonna make its 3/4 square of the sun in Scorpio. Very intense, very dramatic, very passionate. So we're gonna enter into the 19th, the drama is going to get big. And if you thought the drama was big before that, it's going to get big by the 19th. Mars coming in. Also, we have Venus at 21 degrees and Jupiter. So we have Venus and Jupiter aligning in the sky, which is going to be harder to see because it's going to be so closer to the sun, right? But you will be able to see the two brightest stars, which are actually not stars, they're planets, close to each other. Right before or right after sunset. you'll be able to see them in the evening. And they'll be very bright, but they will be getting closer to being not seen. And that's what's kind of a freak out to me about what's coming in the preparation, is that this is where you want to have things seen. I know that it feels like that's really fast, but we need to, because we are not going to see the brightness of the beauty of Jupiter and Venus again in a sign like Jupiter or Sagittarius, where Jupiter loves to be and Venus likes to be. They're going to go over into Capricorn, where they don't want to be, and they're not going to be seen. They're going to be blurred out by the eclipses and the sun. So, you know, well, at least Jupiter will be. Venus is going to always be moving faster. So, you know, the 19th is when the drama comes in. Also, it's going to be a big test of your heart and the connection, what you had. And here comes Mercury, still in retrograde, but it's about to come out. So these are last minute choices or last minute looks, but there is this drama building that you are going to choose what to do with. And so I will say that by the end of November here, the drama gets big, build up into December. And you're about to see a lot of charts really quick just from November 19th to the beginning of December. It's pretty intense here. So here we come on the 24th. So, all right, bang. The sun is, of course, in Sagittarius. And what's interesting about this sun in Sagittarius is, you know, the day before that it comes in, you know, it's like Mercury comes direct days before that on the 21st. But the big thing I wanted to show is the dark moon on Mars with the opposition to Uranus. So yes, from the November 19th through 21st, there is still a lot of contemplation about drama and connection. And what choices you make will be seen with this new moon that's approaching. But this dark moon, with Mercury direct, with Mars opposed Uranus exact, is another redirect moment. So don't be weirded out. I want to say this to camera, that don't be weirded out if you thought everything, like this is going to be weird. Like black and white will be flip-floppy. Like things will be flopping on you, things will then turn into this, or then there'll be this. There's another part of Uranus though that it's like, okay, as you ascend or you go higher and something great happens and it just goes to another level that you're like, no way, there's no way it could have gone better than this. And then there's other light times with Uranus, like there's no way it could have gone worse than this. It just went way down. So that's why it's very important to know what's connected and not, because this is where the illusion train's gonna have a hard time, you know? And then you're using your beliefs to just get out of shitty situations instead of using your beliefs to open up magical doorways in your life to prepare yourself for this big destiny that's coming. Also, it's such a big day on the 24th, of course, because this is Jupiter and Venus, which are going to be exactly conjunct at the galactic center point, okay? And so I forgot to mention at this time, because there's so much, when Jupiter was back at 26 degrees just weeks prior, that's the galactic center point from there to about 0 Capricorn. It's about a 4-degree zone of the Milky Way band, okay? And here comes Jupiter and Venus, the two benefics, with the sun in a benefic sign of Sagittarius, with Jupiter, it's this is the dispositor in its sign. So you have to realize this is very positive. But with a dark moon, it's about letting go of attachments to things that are not of your identity and that are not of the best. So even though you might be done contemplating and you're ready to go, there might be still some old cord or some old succubus or incubus energy or somebody trying to pull you back, or some enemy, or some force in yourself that still can't let go. And this is going to be important after Mercury just finished its retrograde. And with the moon on here, to be very clear on what the hell's going on. And when you can find this clarity, bang, you'll be ready for this big new moon that I'm going to show you in Sagittarius. But Mars opposed Uranus is like, let's get rid of the crap. Mars overpowers Uranus in Scorpio. And with the moon on there, Mars and the moon are very intense. So this is about taking a rocket ship towards positivity and what makes sense and what you believe in, and making sure that you're also not rocket shipping some dark or toxic or evil energies that are not taking you on a higher purpose. So this could be extremely the most amazing time right here, or just the biggest downfall, because you realize exactly what was real and what was not. You extremely start to see, and you have to use There's a lot of beneficial energy though to take. This is either a last call for many people, like a last, okay, okay, I can adjust and take this big opportunity, or this is like taking it from one step to another. Like if I were to take it, it's like, how steps work. Like this is just like quantum leaping. And for others, this is, as the stairway goes down, like quantum going down. And then at least having enough positivity to come back up again, but maybe not as up as high as you could be if you would have made choices better when I showed you at the beginning of October with things. And also, just kind of how the Mercury retrograde will play out for you, And so that's already a lot. And what I'm about to show you now is where things get even more hot and heavy. And I really believe that by that point of November 24th, it's like you have to have let go of everything that is no longer in your path and only commit to what you know is. Like that is that point. Because from that point on, it's just about using the doorways, not using it's like kind of like in a video game when you get like, ooh, I just got another life, not using those extra lives or extra points or the chance card in Monopoly. Like you don't want to get to that point. You want to use this energy to explode something beautiful and even take it even to greater heights than it can be, instead of getting stuck into something and then using it to just get out of something. So as we move on, we are going to move here to November 26th, the new moon in Sag. And as we take a look at this new moon here at 3 degrees, wow, do we have a lot going on with this thing here. Oh, here we are. Yeah. So, just moving some of this. There we go. All right. Now, a 3-degree new moon to me is a pretty interesting thing. Why? Well, because 33, 3-3, it's a Mason number. Also, Jupiter is ruled by 3. And we're getting this really explosion while Jupiter is in its home sign. So this is positive. Now, Venus does move to Capricorn, so where it gets serious about the choices we make with people, but here is the South Node. So we actually see real things happen with the South Node. So this could be relationships moving into really big physical positions, moves, transitions, big decisions in life. But we are going to see this moment here as Mars is now off Uranus, which is positive. And we also are on the last day of Neptune in retrograde. Neptune will come direct the next day. And so this new moon is opportunities to set up and know that you have gone through every part of your unconscious. You have gone through all of your attachments. You have understood all the things that are good connected or not good and connected. And knowing that it's a serious time to actually make those things come to reality. We also have Saturn and Pluto now within 4 degrees. So we are very close. Conjunctions start about 3, but with Saturn being the second biggest planet and it has rings, we are getting very, very close. I do want to say this about this time is that this new moon's really good, but it can be used again really bad with believing in things that, your attachments, your desires are more in your own control set than what destiny has for you. I also want to tell people that on this new moon, with Neptune stationary retrograde, meaning stopped, ready to come direct, hours, after, less than a day after this new moon, that there is a portal here, and it's a portal of an amazing opportunity, but this is the last positive Jupiterian aspect. This will also be the last moon cycle over. If we take a look at the chart real quick, and what I'll do is I'll erase this stuff, that we actually get to a place to where this is the last time that the moon is going to cross over Jupiter in Sag. at the last degrees, at the cusp. And it will come over, the moon will come over Jupiter and Venus. And remember that the next new moon that follows this will be solar eclipse. So we are in eclipse time the second this new moon happens, and things get intense, more than you thought already before. It just keeps building. And this is also a quincunx new moon to Uranus to open up doors to a better place. So every new moon that we've been having since, and actually even the squared new moon of Leo, which was, I think it was July of, that new moon would have been July of, oh yeah, when was that? I was on Aries, so, okay, Taurus, and then it was pretty much, I think, around, what was that, the 30th? Around that July 30th, we've been in this every month dealing with weirdness, dealing with exciting connections or no connection at all. Like, it's just like up and down, up and down, up and down. And we continue with a solar eclipse the following month to trine this Uranus. But that's going to be the completion point from kind of the Virgo aspect that came during the August new moon. But, you know, to take a look at this chart, I mean, wow. Not one to mess around with, not one to also forget that this is the last big positive new moon cycle. The next one's pretty intense. Now you can look at it any way you want. There is, well, I'll show you, but I'm just trying to tell you that if you use the understandings of the rulerships and so forth and the dignified positions and stuff, like this is where it's a lot easier. It gets harder as we move forward from here. So at this point, you want to align yourself with everything that is easy and awesome. And your best preparation is to also at the same time know the beliefs that what you want, what makes sense, what is the best for you, and to actually apply them with Mars and Scorpio. Here we go, folks, December 4th. Now, the reason why December 4th is a big deal, and remember, Neptune has already come direct and so forth, but I wanted to show you this is the moon, that from the buildup of that November, 27, or yeah, that 24th time, and then moving into that new moon, but from that point to December 4th, the moon will have come through all this Capricorn stuff. And also, I haven't shown it yet. I actually, because when I was doing this, let me actually move this. Yeah, the 21st, that's Venus, Jupiter, it's the moon, and then Neptune retrograde, and then Mars at 1. Mercury direct on November 21st, I talked about that. December 11th, there it is, it's in between. December 2nd, yeah, that was what I wanted to show you all. Okay, cool. So let's go to December 2nd. I had these a little out of order because there were some things that I wanted to make, which is Jupiter enters Capricorn on December 2nd. So the week from November of the 24th through December the 2nd, that is the last week of Jupiter and its home sign. All right? And now Jupiter's in Capricorn, its fall position. All right, so Jupiter is now in its sign that it doesn't want to be in the most because it's like a big trail ahead. It's, and just think about like Sagittarius. Sagittarius are beliefs, but beliefs have to become real, and then you have to actually like put the work in, right? So Jupiter is now forcing you that the only options are work, and now it's not opportunities, it's what you already believed in and doing it. So the doors start to close, and if you actually look at the zodiac at the time in which Jupiter comes into, this is the exact moment, by the way, at 11:20 a.m. Pacific, December 2nd. When you actually look at Jupiter entering into Capricorn, remember, Jupiter's only in a sign once a year, so for 12 out of 12 years. So Venus will be on the south node. Everything is about relationships, this Jupiter transit. Karmically. On top of that, Mercury has made it sextile to Saturn. It's making it sextile to Pluto. That means that we need to get to the bottom of the truth and what's really connected to us on our long-term path. Mars at 8, I gotta show you guys this. Make this easier. Here we go. We'll do a little red here for you all. So Mars, oh, we gotta do that. There we go. Mars at 8 is going to be making an exact sextile to Venus. This is positive. It's about relationships and the definitions and the true path, while at the same time, Mars will be trining the North Node for your ultimate destiny. So Jupiter is ready to take you to this place. And remember, we are in eclipse time. And the moon at 23 making, I guess you could say some good aspects, but it will make a good aspect to Jupiter when it comes into Pisces now. So there's no more positive moons in Aquarius. Aquarius now is going to be dealing with hard aspects every time it runs into Aquarius. So the connection stuff will not work if it's not a value and it doesn't connect with scorpionic stuff. And with all this Capricorn now and no more real big sun or any more Jupiterian stuff, just know this connection stuff no longer is opening doorways to things that don't make sense anymore in your life. I also want to take some more time on Jupiter's, entry here, because another thing to look at is that Juno, which represents, here we are, which represents, the understanding of the kind of partner that is there for you, is squaring the South Node and squaring the node. So again, something about this Jupiter transit by December 2nd is bringing up, like, did you make the choice of the emotional or just kind of you're cutting yourself off from emotion and trying to achieve something of true balance and harmony of relationship? So much is up by relationships at this point, especially coming into the holidays, that, I don't want people to think that they're trapped. I mean, there is a little bit of Sag energy left, but now the dispositor of Jupiter being in Capricorn is Saturn, and it's with Pluto, where it's like serious, like it's either all in or all out. It's either committed and got a path or not. So I don't want you to get to this point and feel like you have nothing because you really were afraid to feel and you were just continuing to block and you weren't willing to open up. There was so much that brought you to this point. And Mars with Venus just wants to have, but it's already now in Capricorn. It's like, I've already got my orders. Jupiter has its orders. It's like a plane ticket. Like the best way to describe Jupiter and Capricorn is you have your ticket with your name on it and your your driver license and all that. Like, sorry, when you come to the TSA gate, Jupiter has a mission with the destination, Like when you go, it's like they're not going to just let you in with like a ticket from 4 years ago, or you don't have a ticket. Can I come through? No. Where's your ticket? Where's your this? Because that's the only way through. And that's, I think, going to be the hard part for people. And that's why I'm trying to prepare people for this, to go into the best light. You want to be prepared. You want to be prepared. You want to already have everything ready to go by December 2nd and ready to go, because there are no more options about changing course. And I know that might sound crazy, but you're going to notice that they're very limited. Like the choices are limited. So you want to use the energies now, as you're watching this video, to start to open up and prepare and start to see. And I know that there is a thing about divine timing, and there's a thing about, fate and how it all will work and everything always works out. But there is something about how astrology helps us understand how to make our journey better. And there's a lot of dramatic events in the world too, by Jupiter entering into Capricorn. Always is. It's always a time in which, last time Jupiter was in Capricorn was in 2008. That was the economy that crashed. If you remember your life in 2008, things that were so exciting in Jupiter and Capricorn and Sag at the beginning kind of then, went way different. You went on a way different path in 2008. So be prepared. Now, I think we were back, yeah. So Jupiter's in Capricorn. Here's the full moon on the 11th. here's the 4th. So 2 days after we have this Jupiter aspect, the moon is on Neptune as it's direct. And I just wanted to show you this. This is the last time that we're going to see this moon here with Neptune. Or it's actually going to be the first time we see the moon with Neptune with it direct. And the last time we had the moon with the Neptune retrograde. So now let's look at the planets as far as direct motions. Everything is direct except for Chiron and Uranus. So the energy is moving forward, and Jupiter in the train of Capricorn. I mean, there is Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, Pluto. That's a lot of energy. The 2 biggest planets are in there, the brightest planet, and Pluto, the most dead, far away, but don't count it out because it's the most extreme planet of change. All clumped up, and the moon and Neptune are making good aspects on, let's make this dream a reality, or are you in an illusion of one and nothing's showing up? And also, if you look at this sun, sure, it's making, I guess you could say, the square to the moon that day, and I think that there is something to say about that magic can happen, and dreams can happen, but also magic can happen and nothing becomes real. And I think that people will start to go down the illusion train of the crossroads I brought up a lot, or the actual having of things, and it's about truly following what the universe was trying to show you or not. So, that's a lot to take in. Reminds me of Alice in Wonderland. How does that become real, though, you know? I believe that it's about realizing that a guy named Walt Disney, now it's even deeper than that, though, that there was an actual book in the 1800s written about it, but the actual experience of that in the way that we know it as, in a much more physical, spiritual, visual form, was a movie, a ride, and everything. That it's about what can you create to make dreams come true, instead of just living them in your own imagination, and that's it. That's going to be the difference between who is on the illusion train and who's on the clear train. So here we go to December 11th. It's always a weird date for me. It's the date I went into boot camp. We have a full moon in Gemini, and this full moon is a big deal. This is going to be the last full moon that we have, or the last lunation cycle we have for the next month and a half as we come into the eclipses. And December 11th is only 1 month away from the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which you can see during this full moon. We're going to have Pluto, Venus, and Saturn. This is also very intense because Venus is squashed between Saturn and Pluto. This is the closest we've seen Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn in our lives. And Venus is there squashed, feeling pressured. Did I make the right choices in my relationships? Did I not? And with also at the same time Mars at 15, that's kind of pushing this all in to gear. Mercury now in Sag, which is at detriment, which means, you know, finding a clear answer with a moon in Gemini is not easy, and this full moon is going to square Neptune. So this is where things become crisis points for people, or they become, wow, okay, I did it. And even though it'll still be a crisis even for those that are going through the positive directions, it's about learning to stay on course. This is also when Chiron is coming direct the next day, okay? Like right after this full moon, Chiron's coming direct. So there's going to be some, you know, can I really get through this? Can I do this? And your beliefs and your ideas and your thoughts and the delusions are all going to come into a big mix. And Venus and Pluto and Saturn are going to be very intensely aspected on each other in a stellium, being like a pressuristic choice. Did I make the right choice? Did I not? Just remember that, you know, there's not a lot of options. So this is kind of going to be, I would say, the chart of where people bail out of boats. And maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should if it's just totally, completely not the environment you want and not your beliefs. But with Mercury here at 4 degrees, and I'm going to have to erase this to show you all, but with Mercury here at 4 degrees, like, I'm sorry to say, folks, but like, you're not going to want to get lost here. Like, you're not going to be able to think straight. especially with a full moon in Gemini, almost bringing the emotions too extreme. And with that 19-degree full moon, it's making an exact quincunx multiple times to Pluto, Saturn, and Venus, which means we feel just pressured or stressed on how to go through this. And guess what? This is Capricorn. Like, it's work and it's stress, and there's going to be lessons and there's going to be tough times at times, but Mars and Scorpio is telling you to have your strength and your power. It's trining Neptune. Follow where the universe has been telling you to go. Don't let your mind fuck you up. This is going to be the ultimate mind fuck to get you either to bail out of a good boat, or it's going to be the mind fuck of that I'm in an illusion, and maybe it's just about getting out of the illusion and at least accepting with what's there, but it might be very barren, and you're going to have to trust and believe that you can still get through this. I would say that December 11th to 2019 is where you're going to see people who have been unawake get awakenings. And those that are awake are still tested to stay awake and not turn unawake. It's like a flip. If I were to actually take this and actually do it, it's a flip. It's like, let's say woke, that seems to be like trendy now, and what, unwoke? It's like, do not do the flip. Do not be from woke to unwoke or unwoke to woke. Well, we want unwoke to woke, but you know what I mean? Like, don't be a woke person going unwoke because of stress and for redirection of the mind or something that you think is super stimulating when you've already seen all the options out there. You think that there's more. There's not. You've seen it. And Jupiter's now in Capricorn trining over to Uranus saying, like, let's find connection and let's give you benefits. Let's raise you up. Let's do this. Come on. There's a lot of stress that people are going to see there. And, sorry, I need to take a drink here for a second. It's a pretty... this is where it gets really extreme because we come into the eclipse cycle and we're going to come into Capricorn with Jupiter here, and Mercury in Sag is not strong. So there's not a lot of, I guess you could say, options, even though you might think there are. There's not. So let's take a look. So, Sun comes into Capricorn. Remember, the Sun is at the galactic center as well through these days before this. Mars is making aspects great over to Saturn and Pluto. Venus is now in Aquarius, but it is squaring Uranus during this solstice point. So remember that we are entering a solstice. And that's a big deal because that is pretty much directing what the next 3 months is about. What is this next 3 months going to be about? Determination and grit to stay on a path. Only fortune goes to those that are in the path of decisions and commitments and pathways that they have already made. The mind is not going to understand anything, really, with a square to Neptune and with it being in Sagittarius, that you've already got all the information, you don't need to keep scanning. Venus square Uranus, Venus in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus. Yes, connection can be great, but if it doesn't have the same values or you haven't built some sort of bedrock and you haven't been advancing forward into better things, you're not going to get what you want. There's no more support by Sagittarius anymore at all. And actually the moon that day will T-square over to Venus. So Venus in Aquarius wants to feel good and rebel, but rebellion will not be the option anymore with a square to it, because you will lose on money. You will lose. This is where people are there's gonna be events in the world, and I'm gonna look at the camera to say this. There's gonna be events in the world here that are going to be trying to scare us by this point. And this is where people feel like that they need to run to shelter or run to a safe place, or I need to rebel against this, or whatever. It's all to get you to get off of your path. It's all to get you off some other path. Even the full moon that's before that on, so that's 19 degrees, that's 10 days prior to that. So pretty much that, on the 11th. From the 11th to the 21st, fear is going to start showing up on the planet. And you're going to want to rebel, and you're going to want to do something different. You're going to want to do something wild, and you're going to think, I got to do this, or no. That is all to bail you out of your destiny. And it's going to feel like, well, this is just sucks, maybe. No, you need to see the positive in the road that you're on at this point. And a solstice is a big deal. It really does give you the energy of what you're going to go through for those next 3 months. I mean, think of where you were on the last solstice on June 21st of 2019. I was DJing in Flagstaff, Arizona at a party. And if I look at my life, I was debating on a lot of things that I'm still debating right now. But really, I mean, the fall has already come, so I'm kind of shifting those, but the whole summer kind of felt that way. You know? This is the winter. Or for those on the southern hemisphere, this is the summer. But you know, this is going to be very radical 6 months, because we also, at the same time of a solstice, are going to have a solar eclipse and eclipse cycle that lasts 6 months. So this is what I'm preparing you for, is that this is no joke, and this is what you were waiting for at this point, and to not bail out crazy or act crazy or do crazy things anymore, it will not pay you off. And it might feel uncomfortable, but you should have already set yourself up with everything that's of comfort at this time. And also, if we look back at the chart, I mean, a lot of this dealing with Venus and Uranus and Taurus and with the moon, financial. I mean, this is where people could bail out and go, I need to go move to where it's, the economy is not doing well. People could really get freaked out. There's going to be some sort of monetary crazy shit going on here. Restriction, not a lot of options. And Saturn and Pluto, we're feeling it intense, and Pluto's coming to almost its shadow period. But the main thing is Saturn is leaving its shadow. Saturn went retrograde at 20 degrees in April of 2019. Now it has finally made it here on the solstice. We're about to feel Saturn's full strength with Pluto giving it ultra power. And here's Venus like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to, no. And the moon is at its fall position. And Venus is just like, I don't know. And I want to bail out. I want to bail out. I want to bail out. Do you? You're going to need to ask yourself, really, do you? Or are you going to just realize that there are options if you stay on a path? And that you find comfort in that instead of being like, I'm not comfortable here, I'm ready to go. Fucking after you built all these, and there was all these opportunities and all these things, you're gonna have to realize that, oh, well, if I saw those opportunities before, then I can see them again. No, I'm here to tell you as an astrologer, and this is where we could agree to disagree, whatever you want to. There are not gonna be opportunities like you saw anymore for a long time. They're not. They're not. So if you're gonna bail out because you're not feeling well about something at this point, and if somebody bails out on you, that might be the fucking shittiest part about all this, is that we could actually build ourselves so up to this point, and we thought we were so secure in something, and this Uranus energy does not stop to try to teach us to be better and know our own value in ourselves. That's what makes Uranus and Taurus hard. If you look at Uranus and Taurus from 1934 all the way until 1939, just that time, especially in 38. I mean, imagine being in World War II. Imagine being a Jew at that time with the Nazis, or imagine even being in America and waiting for what the fuck's gonna happen and trying to stay in and out of the war or whatever, or in Europe and being in France and being invaded. Or even if you're Stalin, right, and you thought you were friends with Hitler, and then what? Fucking now he's coming to attack me and come into my country and just start bombing me? This is Uranus and Taurus. It is not an easy transit, and it is being affected in all these lunation cycles and with this cycle on the solstice very extremely. And with Jupiter coming in, it's going to be enhanced. And Saturn's going to be enhanced with Pluto there for the first time. This is why I'm saying this is no fucking joke. This is way off the Richter scale. If I were to draw this for you, and let's just draw this, let's do a periodic table or like a graph, let's say, and let's say from 1 to 10 would be the power of the actually we'll do 1 to 10 and 1 to 10. Okay, so We'll put this as like the power of the astrology that we've seen in our life. And we'll put the 10 as far as the actual astrology that's happening. I mean, we literally reach like that point, you know, like the graph is just completely hit, bang, 10, 10, 10 at this point, and it hasn't even reached 10. If, you know, they always say in music, like, they always give you an 11 to kind of bump the music, like, you know, a little bit higher. It's gonna hit a little bit higher. And that's what's gonna be what we've never experienced as a human. So here's Christmas Day at 10 p.m. Pacific, so actually Christmas Day for me here and Craig and people here at High Vibe. But here's the solar eclipse. Now, for this solar eclipse, I'm going to move this to green. So we are at 4 and 4, and okay, Jupiter, Sun, and Moon. Now, Jupiter's Sun is coming, and I'll show you that on another chart, but a solar eclipse on Jupiter is a big deal, but we have to remember the south nodes here. So, you know, we're going to have to find the biggest optimism of our life at this point. And also, people could be just like really unhappy by actually seeing, if we look at this chart, like by actually seeing like other people being in really good positions because they have plans. They had plans. This is corporate power big. This is people who've had plans big. This is people who have been committed getting rewards. And those that kind of just tried to play it safe might feel really like, no, did I get anything? But it also could be great, great gains for those that played it safe as far as realizing, well, at least maybe you have some emotion and maybe these people have no emotion, or maybe they're being, you know. But there's something to say about a reward coming here for those that have stayed on the path for a long time in your life. Especially that this is covering the zone of about 2010 where Pluto was. 2009, 2010, like that's where Pluto was, 4 and 5 degrees. And to 2011, he was at 5, and that's where Jupiter is. So there's something, we haven't not seen Jupiter cover where Pluto was ever in Capricorn, because the last time Jupiter was in Capricorn, Pluto was behind Jupiter, and Jupiter and Pluto conjuncted in Sag. Now we're going to get Jupiter and Pluto to conjunct in Capricorn for the first time in our lives in the year that follows in 2020, which is much more about whoever has a plan, whoever is on the path, whoever is on their destiny, who's ever in alignment with the universe will receive rewards. But this solar eclipse is trine to Uranus. I really want blue. Thank you. So here's that Uranian energy, not away, and it's still retrograde. The only planet not direct, everything else in the chart during this eclipse on Christmas Day or 26th of December, depending on where you're at in the world, is direct. Mars is direct, Venus is direct, and Mars and Venus are in fixed signs. So there's a fixation around connection and passion. And the North Node at 8 degrees here is making a quincunx to Venus. And we also have the Ceci quadrant there, But what I do want to say is that Saturn and Pluto are very close for the first time. We've never seen this close before in Capricorn, ever. And Jupiter is going to pay off those that played the long ball, those who sent the right thing at the right time. Jupiter in Capricorn is somebody who wins the race. Like the reason why the rat in Chinese is the first sign is when Jupiter's always in Capricorn. There's something about, it seems unfair for the rat to ride an ox. So if I were to draw this out, like our little ox, okay, and that little bitty rat, which will make him a little yellow guy, the little rat went on top, that's me, I'm a rat, went on top of the ox and rode him and was telling him, he was like the Waze, he was like the GPS, yeah, go over here, because the ox doesn't really know, it's just really strong. So they go run to the race, and guess what happens? When they get to the finish line, let's put some like little flags, right? The rat decided to jump in front of the ox and say thanks and won the race. He didn't break the rules because the rules never said you can't ride anybody else and you can't jump in front of them. Like, is that breaking the rules, or is that just cheating, or is that unfair? It could feel that way, but Sun and Jupiter and Capricorn really don't give a fuck. Neither does a solar eclipse on Jupiter. People are going to be unhappy about the way that other people are gaining and not receiving anything. And this is all due to the fact that if you made stupid decisions, and I'm just going to be very blunt, by you not having some sort of path and not staying in a system that is not going to be fully destroyed even though you were, and you ran to the hills or you ran away, there is something about destiny coming into complete disarray for some and complete rewards for others. Complete. Like what? But it's also part of the ending of the cycle, since Saturn and Pluto have not officially conjuncted. And so this is going to be the last eclipse of the old paradigm rewards. But there's something to say that maybe some of those on the light path work, maybe they needed the old paradigm's reward system in order to move their agendas forward. And some of the dark are going to get theirs to move theirs forward for the ultimate battle of light and dark that's coming. Okay? And with that trine to Uranus, like, it is about starting to see who is on the hierarchy of values and what you have. And this is why I did the deep astrology prior to this, saying that vanity or value will save your life, like in a weird way, that universe is trying to, there is something to say, and I do want to say this in a visual, is that there is something to say about hierarchies in life as a pyramid. And you see on a dollar bill like the third eye, and you always go, oh gosh, those are the Illuminati or whatever. What it means is that when you're at the top of a hierarchy, that you've achieved success, that you've achieved knowledge, you've achieved knowing what to do in the plan, that you do get a better position and you have all your eyes. And if you ever see the rays that come out of the eye or the third eye, that you have a better position to see everything from down below. But it can feel, as somebody down here and not up here, like there's going to be such a separation right here, where these people do not like anybody who achieved anything, and there could even be an all-out beginnings of wars or civil unrest or police brutality or police coming out or rebellions, because this is going to be a solar eclipse trine Uranus. We did see one with the solar eclipse in Leo, although this one's Capricorn and Taurus, and this one's going to be about what people have and don't have and where they're at in the hierarchy system. It's going to be intense. And Jupiter expands everything, and especially in Capricorn, it's expanding a Capricornian old paradigm plan until Saturn and Pluto meet to destroy it, but it's not there to destroy it yet. It hasn't destroyed it. So, I mean, that's not a normal Christmas, you know what I mean? Some people are going to get really good gifts, and some people are going to get coal. And that one's going to be hard, I think, for some people to deal with. I will show you real quick here, just on the 26th of December here. So at night, after the eclipse has happened, the moon is then going to occult Saturn and Pluto in an eclipse cycle. And so I'm saying you're gonna see this really dark and weird energy come, and then here's Sun-Jupiter conjunct, which is actually one of the greatest days of the year, but it is gonna be for those that are some. And here's Mercury on the galactic center point, trying to understand that there's some sort of weird fate that has come in for some and not for others, for those that really were just playing the game. There's something about Capricorn and Jupiter about playing the game and knowing how to play the game good. If you don't know how to play the game, or you have been out of the game, it's going to be difficult. And I think especially with the North Node in Cancer, of course, like you have to learn how to do both sides. You have to learn how to play the game and then also know how to have some sort of comfort or some emotional security. And that's why I've been saying, get your emotional security done, but don't quit the game. I've been saying this. I have videos of me saying this too. In April of 2017, I'll come to camera here to talk, but in April 17, I told people in San Diego, like, listen, like if you're gonna throw away your whole life right now and try and go and live in a van or put away all your money and not be part of the system at some point, like do not even do that. There's gonna be some sort of massive thing you miss out on, which maybe you might need to get to where the new world's gonna go. But like, this is where there's gonna be feeling imbalances everywhere. There's gonna be hidden elements everywhere. There's gonna be weird stuff that pops up out of nowhere. Like this is gonna be very, very stressful for some, and it's gonna be very beneficial for others. And there's gonna be very clear indications for those that have been putting in long-term work, their benefits are gonna start to show up. For others that haven't been doing that work, if you're watching this now, you better start shifting your life about getting to work and doing things. Capricorn, unfortunately, is work, and it is a boss. And you have to show up. So, we moved to New Year's Eve. Now, this is, of course, Pacific time. So what's interesting to me, again, I don't know what it is, that the Western world is going to get the moon, especially those in California, ironically enough, but even I think it will be possible for it to be happening. It's gonna happen for those in New York as well. So in America, the moon will be in Aries, even though it'll be conjunct Chiron. For those in Europe, the moon will be in Pisces, where last year on New Year's Eve, Mars was here. Mars switched from Pisces into Aries. So that's why you've seen Europe go through kind of like a weird space, like it's always so uncertain. And then in the Western hemisphere, especially like Americas, you've seen this more clear-cut, more bombastic, Aryan, like yes, no, you, me against you or whatever, but it's always felt like there's been deception too. But there's this really intense thing of this New Year's Eve is gonna bring a part into the 2020 cycle, a moon on Chiron, like finding your humble truth as it is a moon square the sun. We are seeing Saturn, Pluto. Look at this. Saturn is now out of its shadow, and Saturn and Pluto are literally less than 1 degree away. When we have Mars on the last degree of Scorpio, which is ironic to me that we're seeing another end of Mars transit happen, and so things are edgy. It's not a very calm new year. It is going to be intense. It'll be a party for some. It'll be detrimental for others. But if you see also, if we look at the zodiac and you see this is a massive clump up here in Capricorn. We had an eclipse, that was building up on last New Year's, but this one we have eclipse that already has happened, and we're waiting for the other one, and we're halfway through the eclipse with the moon at its square point. Now, Uranus is still retrograde. And we've got Mercury, Jupiter in the South Node. So New Year's is going to be setting the course of this new year, and I guess you could even say decade, about understanding how to play the game of life better in an ever-changing reality and rules, and knowing how to listen to the rules and play the best, and knowing how to have determination, knowing how to understand and intuitively know how to survive this reality. Those that put survival, not in a sense of a cancer like I have, and I'll get a camera for this one, I have enough food in my pantry. No, Mars in Scorpio is intuitive in the moment. It is street smart. It is deterministic. It will survive in the moment. It'll cut a tree to, put this on a stint for your arm. It will eat what it needs to eat. It will do what it needs to do. And there's gonna be that grimy, intense Mars Scorpio at the end, penetration to survive and to win the game. And even though that might not feel very safe and emotional, I'm just going to let people know that that's going to feel like that's going to be the vibe of coming into New Year's of 2020. Like, it is not going to feel like yay. It might feel like yay for those that are doing well, but for those that are not, which I would say that 95% of the earth will not be, that don't do work or don't show up or don't have some sort of plan or don't know how to be very scorpionic or don't know how to live in their edge and realize that this is an edgy time and this is where edge and edge meet and where sensitivity and edge do not meet well. Like, it will be very hard for those that are very sensitive. You know, it could be dream killing too. And this is about staying and preparing yourself, about not being dream killed by preparing yourself through October and November, like I showed you, to see the vision and see what's working and stay on course. And you'll be fine. But if you're going to let the world and fears and the way that things are going to try to thwart you off, and then the world's going to seem really edgy, if you're not an edgy person, you don't know how to deal with edge, then you got to move through with that plan and that belief that you had. Gnarly. Gnarly. And I can't, I got to put one more transit, which is Neptune is there in that semi-square back with Uranus. And it's going to get even closer again. And this is where deception in the media and deception is going to be at its last. This is going to be one of the last big Neptune-Uranian semi-squares we're going to start seeing. We're going to see the break apart because Neptune will come to 10. Uranus will come to 10 in 2020, and Neptune will come over to 21. So they'll at least be 9 degrees away from the original, or at least, they'll be enough apart to not be in semi-square. But they are semi-squaring on this New Year's. And a moon in Aries on Chiron is, this can be a big blow to your ego if you're not humble. And also, if you don't know how to have courage to survive, there's something about survival. 2020 is going to feel like a survival year. And if you're afraid to be on that game show Survivor from back in the day, what was that guy's name who won the first guy? Everybody fell in love with that guy, but he was hardcore. And he was kind of a dickhead. There's something about that energy that's coming into here. And I'm not trying to tell you to be that way. I'm just trying to let you know what's showing up here. And there's only these last couple of charts here to show you, and because we're already in 2020, but I'm just showing you this. I'm going to do a whole nother video about 2020 and about the eclipses. That's pretty much the preparation right there. But I just wanted to show you real quick and just run down here what's going on. So then we have the lunar eclipse with Mercury on top, with a south node on Jupiter at 20 degrees of Cancer. So here we are trying to find some security in the middle of a major edgy time, as Saturn and Pluto now are at 22. They're going to conjunct 2 days later. And this is going to be an intense moment. Mars is now in Sag, because we showed you on New Year's that Mars was leaving Scorpio, but still in. So, this is going to be pretty intense because the only options left are in taking action. This moon here at 20, is opposing Mercury. So it's a very confusing time of where is safety? Where is it? Well, a lot of it is like, do I need to fall into what control systems are telling me to do or destiny is telling me to do? I think rebellion is something that is still going to be coming up, of course, but I think it's like knowing how to play the game of rebellion instead of going against a control system or powers that be. You're gonna have to play this thing safe, or you're gonna have to play this thing in the right way. That's what this Cancer is play things safe. Be a little bit 007-ish. And then I just want to show you this last chart here, which is the 12th, which is the actual Pluto-Saturn conjunction, which will be right here, where Saturn has now passed Pluto for the first time in a long time, since '83, and bam, with the sun exactly conjunct. That's intense. And then on top of that, we're right after an eclipse, and Mercury will be there too. So this is where I believe the false story is going to start to come out, or some people call it the Antichrist, or some sort of person's going to pop out with a message. And that's what I'm going to prepare you all for. The moon in Leo is going to remind you to stay positive and happy. But to close, there's a lot in this video to talk about, but really, this was the section that I wanted to tell you all about, to show you, and to be prepared for. So in conclusion to this video, I know that there's a lot of information to process here, I want to just say this in a very positive way. If you're paying attention to the signs, you'll be okay. And I'm not talking about just the signs of astrology, just the signs in your life of where to go at this point. What feels like an illusion? What feels like it's just fear that's being instilled on you? What feels not in alignment with your life? We get confused in our mind a lot, and this is going to be a big test, as I showed you in the chart. And I'm going to be doing my 2020 video that'll go deeper into this, but you at least were able to see that when Pluto and Saturn do make their conjunction, that Mercury is on top of it. This is the destruction of the mind in the way that we think that the world works. And I think that it's more important that it also is going to be used to project fear into people's minds of the way that it should look and how it should be, as I didn't go even deeper into the South Node on Jupiter. But that's something to save for the understanding of what will come in a longer period. This is a preparation video. This is a preparation that I have spent hours on to give you, to at least get a sense of, instead of focusing so much on what happens throughout the course of 2020, but what you're doing now to actually make the best position of your life possible to come into that space. Follow the signs. Don't follow urges that you know the signs don't lead to where you know you should go. I know that's hard. And a lot of it is, the spiritual community, the manifesting community, our entertainment, our news, everything is taught us through commercials and everything to go after what makes us happy. But there are things that make us happy that are in alignment, and there are things that make us happy that are way out of alignment. And if I could close with the best way to understand this preparation, it'd be that. I'm sending you my best energy as you prepare, as you come into this next decade, as you come into this major time. And I want to remind you to take action as fast as you can in better alignments, and to cut things that are not in alignment with you, to make things easier, to make things flow. Understanding boundaries is important, but understanding a path with boundaries and knowing, don't go off into a crazy radical world that you're without anything. Keep yourself open. Keep yourself open to possibilities with things that are beautiful and that are showing you offerings. There are rewards for those that do, and there are no rewards when you close off and you're the one that you believe that you're in the full control of this. I appreciate you all so much. I appreciate you being part of High Vibe. I appreciate all the support, especially as you'll see other videos from me, but just I want to say thank you, especially in this last decade, for following me. And I hope to see you follow more of myself and all the team at High Vibe and wherever life goes coming into this new decade.